Hi everyone, my name is Sonia Marshall and I am coming to you through the power of technology from the land down under Australia. The land of kangaroos and koalas and snakes that are huge and spiders the size of your head and drop bears and crocodiles, loads of crocodiles. Here's a couple of photos of myself and my beautiful daughters. So my 12-year-old Evie has cystic fibrosis. There's around about 3,000 people in Australia with CF and around half of those are children. The other half are adults. It used to be more children than adults, but these days the numbers are evening up, which is fantastic news and gives us lots of hope. I don't think that having CF in Australia would be all that different really than if you lived in America with CF. We go to cystic fibrosis clinic every couple of months. We do hospital admissions and I guess cross-infection is really big here. I'm sure it is in America too. So every time we go to clinic or hospital, we're put in an isolated room. We don't actually see anyone else with cystic fibrosis at all. All of the health staff come to us. So we have the lung function come to us and do the lung function tests in the clinic room or in the hospital room. The respiratory specialist comes to us, the dietitians, the physiotherapy team, the gastroenterologist, and in my daughter's case, endocrinology, because she has CF-related diabetes. They all come to us in our room, whether it's an admission or a CF appointment. We did do once a trial staying in a hotel, so kind of like what we call hospital in the home, where if you live near a hospital you can actually go home with your IV lines in your arm and somebody will come out, a nurse and a physiotherapist will come to you and check things are okay every day and do what they need to do. We live too far away from the hospital for that to happen, so it's about nearly 2 hours drive to the hospital for us, and so we did what they call a trial of a day bed. So the hospital put us up in a hotel across the road from them, and then every morning we would go back to the hospital and Evie would have a room where she'd receive her IVs, get her physio done, do a lung function if that was due that day, have any blood tests she needed. And usually it was done and dusted by about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And she also got hooked up to what we call a bum bag. I think you guys call them a fanny pack. And she had IVs in her bum bag for infusion overnight for one of the IVs. That went really well. We really liked that, and it meant that we could sort of be together more as a family, my 2 daughters and myself, in the hotel room and sort of eat normal food and do life a little bit more normally if that's possible from a hotel room. But that was good. So we also have Ronald McDonald House across the road from our children's hospital. Ronald McDonald is from Macca's, as we call it, McDonald's. So we have, I'm sure you guys probably have something similar or the same. So just rooms basically in a communal kitchen where family of children who are in hospital can stay for the duration of the admission. I think it costs about $10 a night to stay in there. It's really cheap accommodation, and sometimes they throw in some free meals and things, so really affordable, great service. One thing that might be different in Australia is that we have Medicare and what we call the PBS. So Medicare is a healthcare system, and pretty much there's a public system, which is Medicare, and a private system if you have private health insurance. Pretty much everything, if you're in the public system, is free. So all hospital admissions, the clinic visits, visits to the doctors, etc. are free. Sometimes there's a gap that you have to pay. So we might go to the GP and see the GP, and the GP will charge $70, but say $50 of that is you get back from Medicare, and some tests are like that as well. But generally for Evie, everything is free through the public system, which makes having private health insurance kind of, well, it's the same doctors and the same service and the same tests. So in Evie's case, I don't actually think it's worth paying for the private health insurance, but some people do. So yeah, it's an individual choice thing, I guess. With our medications, we have what we call the PBS, which is the Pharmaceutical Benefits Scheme. It's a government-run scheme that subsidises the cost of some of the medication in some cases. And there are a whole load of criteria around the medications and the conditions, and that determines who can access the subsidy and who can't. It's a really good system. I'm really grateful for it. Instead of paying $1,500 a month for Pulmazine, for example, I pay $6.30 a month for Pulmazine. I would be seriously broke if it wasn't for the PBS. I am seriously broke even with the PBS, as I'm sure all of you probably are too with the cost of CF. But what it does mean is that some of the more expensive medications that we're seeing now, medications like Orkambi, for instance, it's really difficult to get them approved under the PBS system here in Australia because they're so expensive, and it's a lot of money from taxpayers to be able to cover or subsidise the cost of that. So we do have Kalydeco in Australia for those people with CF who are eligible for that, but Orkambi, it's been through our Therapeutic Goods Association, which determines how safe the medication is. They said it's safe. And we can go and get a script and buy it if we've got about $300,000 a year to pay for it. Most people don't, so we're campaigning very hard to get Orkambi and other subsequent drugs in the pipeline approved under the PBS system here in Australia. We have cystic fibrosis organisations. There's a national one, so CF Australia, and their role is really around research and providing funding and grants and directing research. And advocacy as well for the more federal level issues like Orkambi, for instance. It's a big one. And then we have state branches. So I live in the state of Queensland, so we have Cystic Fibrosis Queensland, and their role is really more at that ground roots level where they provide service and support to CF patients. And the sorts of services and support they provide include things like a physical activity and parking subsidy. So if you go and buy a trampoline or a new pair of joggers, or you join a sporting club and have to get uniforms or something, you can send your receipts in and they'll reimburse you up to $150 a year. The parking subsidy, I believe, is around a reimbursement of around $50 a year. We have huge parking costs. You guys probably do too, at our hospitals, and it's been nothing for me to pay up to, $500 an admission if I've had my car down in Brisbane. So that's very helpful. CF Queensland offer newly diagnosed support, so information, boredom buster bags when kids are admitted to hospital. It's just a bag full of fun things to do and goodies, which are always good. School support, so they provide education for teachers around cystic fibrosis. Parents and carers events. I don't actually go to those because, being a single mum and not having family close by, it's kind of hard to get babysitters, basically. But that's where all the mums or the dads get together and stay overnight somewhere, have a lot of fun, or have an event, a dinner or something like that. They have airway clearance equipment that we can buy it through them and we get a bit of a discount, or they loan it out. And then there's Rose Cottage, which is a house, basically a residential house near the hospital that you can stay in if you're a parent and you need somewhere to stay other than Ronald McDonald House, for instance. And they do other things like interest-free loans if you need to, for adults, particularly for adults with CF who need to buy, a new nebulizer or something, don't have the money, then they can borrow the money to do that. Then I guess there's the issue of school in Australia when you're living with cystic fibrosis. For everybody does it differently, but for Evie, she spends a lot of days away being unwell or in hospital. So I've set up with her school a really flexible learning program for her. So everything she needs to do is online. And if she's not well, she can stay home and just do it from a laptop. Or otherwise, she goes to school and does things normally, and going to school obviously is really important for those social connections. So her school are fantastic in being able to facilitate that. Anyway, I think that's probably enough from me. I just want you to remember that even in Australia we have cystic fibrosis and we are all in this together. So love you CF mums, wishing you great dream lung functions all the way from Aussie.